I'm Olivia Ausnehmer, and today I have the pleasure of speaking to Jim Piazza, an advocate for ending hazing across college campuses. Thank you for joining me today, Mr. Piazza. For those who may not be familiar with your son's case, can you talk about what happened to Tim Piazza here at Penn State?
Sure. In 2017, he decided to pledge the Beta Theta Pi fraternity here at Penn State. And on a bid acceptance night, so the first night of getting your bid, they reached out to him and told him to show up at the fraternity house wearing blazer and tan slacks. And they basically said they're going to get him messed up. So he showed up at the fraternity house with, I think, 13 other pledges, and they immediately hit him with a handle of vodka, which they made him drink. And from there, they made him go through what they called the gauntlet, which was an alcohol obstacle course. There's video of it. It shows that he had at least 18 drinks in less than an hour and a half. At some point during the night, somebody walked him upstairs, but they left him alone. He fell down the stairs. He was unconscious, and basically for the next several hours, they had people throwing him on the couch, backpacking him, which is putting books in a backpack, so he didn't roll over on his back and vomit. He was vomiting. He was in a lot of pain when he was coherent. And then they all went to bed. They left him alone. And throughout the night, he fell a bunch more times. The next morning, they found him curled up in the basement, wearing no shirt, in the fetal position, his body kind of getting stiff. They brought him upstairs. They waited for another 45 minutes as they were Googling, cold extremities and hitting head, and, drinking and whatnot. After 45 minutes, they called 911, but they basically let him lay for 12 hours after the fall. And he was sent to the hospital, and nobody went with him or anything. And they knew he had a brother on campus. They didn't even call his brother. His brother ended up finding him at the local hospital, which they then airlifted him to Hershey Medical Center, which is when we got the call to come out.
Mm-hmm. And just devastating, very tragic. How did Penn State react initially to all of it?
So initially, I think there was a lot of denial, there was a lot of cover-up. Certainly the fraternity members from Beta Theta Pi and their alumni and advisors, they did everything they could to cover it up. I think Penn State was, in denial. I think they were trying to say it wasn't hazing, and they were trying to place victim blame, which is, a common occurrence. But then I think President Barron realized once a grand jury report came out and really talked about everything that went on that night, they realized that it was a big problem. And they knew hazing and alcohol abuse was a problem before, but it culminated with Tim's death. And, President Barron took several aggressive and meaningful steps and really tried to make a difference here on campus and throughout the country even. And he's implemented some things, and, we just met with the new president, and we're very optimistic that she's going to continue making positive change at the university.
Right. Let's talk about the ongoing criminal case. Who has been charged? What are you still who still needs to be charged? How are your feelings about that?
Yeah, so there were about 28 students charged with a variety of crimes, including some felonies. The court system in Centre County decided to dismiss many of the charges, but most of the individuals did plead guilty to a number of misdemeanor charges, whether it be furnishing alcohol or hazing or conspiracy to haze or other things. And some of them got jail time. Some of them just got fined, but most of them have already done their terms and sentences at this point. I mean, it is 5 years later, more than 5 years later. But there are a couple of individuals that still need to get their sentencing. And there are two individuals, which is the president and vice president / pledge master, that still have to go to trial. And it's all on appeal right now. based upon, some evidential matters, and we're not really allowed to speak about it too much, but so that is still to come from a criminal perspective.
What justice do you hope to see from or towards the president and the vice president?
So we're not really allowed to talk about it, but I think there's a lot of people that think accountability has not been found yet, and hopefully they will be held accountable for their actions and the effort that they put into the situation. But again, that's for someone else to decide.
And we talked a little bit about how Penn State handled Tim's situation here. How do you hope to see universities handle hazing? With all the work that you've done, what do you hope to see universities do with hazing?
So I think the universities all play a huge role in eliminating hazing, as do the national fraternities and sororities. I think it's only going to start when we see a zero tolerance, where when people are found to be guilty of it, they get suspended or expelled from the school. And I think once that starts happening, and parents are like, "Whoa, I sent you to school, I'm paying all this money, and you're getting kicked out." I think that's when the conversations are going to start at home a little bit more. But universities they have a hard time getting too involved in it. I think they worry about the risk associated with it. But from my point of view, as it continues, as I continue to see it, I talk to families. I'm like, you got to go after the jugular of that university and that national organization, and you got to get them, hit them hard with civil charges. And hopefully, when that starts to happen, universities see that, they step up more. But the universities have a huge role to play in it.
Well, action should have been taken earlier, hazing. Your son's death, in a way, was a wake-up call to Pennsylvania, and so there was the Timothy Piazza anti-hazing law. How did that all come about? What was your involvement in that law?
Very interestingly, it came about as a result of a local politician who was based out of Center County, running with it, and he felt like there needed to be a stiffer law because he saw, in our case, a lot of the key felony charges were thrown out. And his point of view was, well, if it's hazing and somebody's dying, it should be a felony. And some other states had it, not too many. And he started running with it. He wanted to make sure that we were supportive of it, so he brought us in. And we worked with him to get it moved along. And of course, like anything else political, it got caught up in the governmental system. And I had to drive out to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to meet with the Speaker of the House on my way to a partner meeting in Las Vegas with the firm I'm with. And I had to meet with him, and I had to say to this guy, you need to move this thing along. This is bipartisan. You got to put it forward, and here are 30 letters from university presidents across the state. And after that meeting, he said, you'll see movement on it next week, and he did. He pushed it along, and it became law. And from there, the law was changed in New Jersey shortly, maybe a year and a half after that as well. And that one was driven by a young boy that happened to be the brother of one of Tim's best friends. He wrote a letter to the senator and said, we need a better law in New Jersey too. So, people recognize that there's got to be teeth in this anti-hazing movement.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the Piazza Center for Fraternity and Sorority Research. What is the center doing? How are you involved in that?
So that was President Barron's idea, which we're grateful for. He basically said the university will put up $2 million, and then we'll match another $3 million as the organization raises money. So a total commitment of $8 million, and the thought was that this center will be a national organization that will do fraternity and sorority research and learn about behavioral things, sexual assault, why is it happening, binge drinking, alcohol abuse, hazing, And it will also be, kind of the repository for what President Barron had another idea of, which was the national report card of each university's clubs and organizations, fraternities, sororities, and which ones had negative, situations, negative events that happened at them, and providing information to students and parents that are coming into a new school and being able to look at the organizations that have had problems within those schools. And the Piazza Center is again supposed to be the repository of that report card, and is in the process of developing it. They're still in the fundraising mode. So if people on campus are willing to donate, they need a fair amount of money still. But it is hopefully going to make the fraternity and sorority experience better and more in line with what it's supposed to be and not supposed to be, which is, just egregious, rampant, binge drinking and abusive behavior for new members, because nobody gains out of that. There's nobody that gains out of that.
And what do you think is the true experience of fraternity and, being a part of a fraternity and sorority? You just named all the bad things. What are some of the good things that you want students to really experience if they're a part of Greek life?
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of great situations and a lot of not so great situations, but when I wasn't necessarily supportive of Tim joining, but the one thing I did see is a good way to make friends and a really good way to start networking. Because in life, you need to develop a network. You need to learn how to network with people if you want to be successful. And I thought, what better place than in a small environment, especially at a big campus like this.
Right.
You can make it a little bit smaller by joining an organization and networking within the organization, and have friends or contacts for life as a result of that. And I think that's the strength for fraternities and sororities is the friendships and the networking capabilities. And there's a lot of good things that they do as well, right? Here at the university, there's a lot that the fraternities and sororities do with Thon, which is a wonderful thing. And Tim was very involved with that through a different group, through IOTA. But, wonderful things. We went to Thon many years, and, it was fantastic, the money that's raised for the children that are impacted. So there's a lot of good things that can come out of it.
Everybody deserves to have that good experience, right?
Everybody
so let's talk about your anti-hazing work. What have you been doing?
Sure.
Tell me about it.
So, when all this happened, we decided, we needed to speak out because, for whatever reason, because it was Penn State, because of the video that was there, because of Tim's picture, I don't know, the media grabbed it and ran with it. And we realized we've got a platform, not that we want to be part of this platform, but we have a platform that people are going to listen to us because the media was so interested in it. So we started speaking throughout the country. My wife does more than I do, but we go to different universities and we speak about anti-hazing. We talk about in grueling detail what has happened to Tim. In many cases, we'll see people pass out in the audience, the way my wife delivers the message. And we'll talk about why it shouldn't be happening, things that you could do to prevent it. And we also speak at a lot of fraternity and sorority leadership conferences, both individual national leadership conferences as well as, the overall national conferences that the NIC or the NPC do. I think we've spoken to over 200,000 people at this point. And, we're just still going strong. My wife keeps a very big calendar of speaking engagements. I can't do it as much because I still work, but, so that's the core of what we do. And there's some other families that have joined us in doing that who unfortunately joined our club. The other thing that we do is we're out there, we're changing the state laws. We've done Pennsylvania, New Jersey, we're working on other ones, other families have done other states. And we're also trying to get a national law changed as well, which would tie in well to the scorecard, which would be a requirement for transparency at the university level of the good and the bad that's happening at specific clubs. You'll have a portal to go in and see, this club is good, this club has had X amount of violations. So that's another thing we're doing. And just trying to remain visible. to use the platform that unfortunately we were given.
Can you talk a little bit more about the national law that you're advocating for and kind of how that would look for across the United States, across the college campuses we have here?
Sure. So we've been to DC, your area, I don't know, probably 5-6 times now, lobbying with congressmen and women about the End All Hazing Act. And what that would do, it would require universities to be transparent, have on their website an area that parents and students can go to that will list out all the organizations within that chapter, in that university, and it will talk about what violations that specific organization has had and when. And I think it'll date back for 5 years. So, when you go in and you're looking at sororities at Penn State, you would see XYZ sorority has had 3 situations of, alcohol abuse or hazing or, whatever. And you would be able to then make an educated decision, well, maybe I'm not going to go to that one. Or XYZ fraternity, has had, 3 accusations or situations of sexual assault, 2 hazing, 1 violation, binge drinking. And people will be able to make educated decisions because I knew if I had that information, Beta Theta Pi was on suspension when, not suspension, but they were on probation when Tim passed away. If we had known that, we'd be like, no way you're joining that organization.
Right.
But
I did want to talk about this new Hulu series that just was announced a month and a half ago called Death by Penn State. Is this something that you would get involved with? Is this something that you kind of support? Because it is surrounded by your son.
Yeah, so they asked us if we would oppose it, and we said no. And their goal is to show what took place at that fraternity house, that organization, as well as show what has gone on since then through the criminal trials, through some of the behavior, through the housing organization that is suing Penn State for the house so that they can put another fraternity in there. So these folks want to portray what really has happened. For a lot of reasons, we are choosing not to be deeply involved with it. One is that we're not allowed to under a gag order, so we really can't be involved. But our biggest concern is accuracy. So as long as they get it accurate, we don't care. But we didn't think it was necessarily our place. We have other things that we're thinking about doing as well once all the litigation is over.
Right.
So we're supportive, but we're really not part of it.
What are some of those other things that you're thinking about?
We thought about doing a documentary of some sort, maybe on our son's situation, maybe on a multitude of situations, and calling out like specifics about what happened not only to our son, but to other individuals at different universities. We thought about writing a book, and I've explored that. So there's a lot of different things that could happen.
Awesome. I look forward to kind of seeing what all happens with that. What's your advice for somebody who may be getting hazed or somebody who is participating in hazing?
So if you're getting hazed, I would say talk to the rest of your new member class, and I refrain from calling it pledge class because I think that's a word that's synonymous with hazing, and say, hey, listen, we shouldn't have to deal with this. We shouldn't have to put up with this. And all of you collectively say, no, we're not going to do it. And if everybody does that, they're going to have to say, okay, because they need you, they need your money. So they're not going to throw you out and say, no, you can't. And especially if they do that, the national organization is going to be like, why did all of our new members back out? So that's one option. Another option is just, you know what, it may not be right for you, get out. And then the third option, which I hope they would do, is especially if it's bad, report it. It could be anonymous. Report it. They can call me, and I'll take care of it from there. If you see it going on, and you're one of the members already, and you see it going on, you need to step up because it only takes one person in your organization to bring the whole thing down. There's a number of situations where one member of the fraternity, took action against 1 or 2 pledges. And somebody died or somebody got really hurt, and because of that one person, their chapter was banned forever from the campus. All those guys got to go find new housing. Some of them got charged criminally for things that maybe they weren't even involved in. So if you see it going on, you have an obligation to report it, and you have an obligation to get rid of the cancer in your organization and say, get out. We don't need you here.
What about for those who are the ones participating in the hazing?
Well, I mean, I hope you're held accountable. And if you see this and you're doing it, I'm asking you to stop it now. Just stop, because you could ruin your life, because you'll have a record. If you get caught and you get charged with a crime, you will have a record forever. It will be on the internet forever. You look at the Beta Theta Pi individuals, you Google Tim Piazza, you'll see pictures of all of these guys from Beta Theta Pi, names, pictures, in 100 different places. And that's not what you want. You want to spend, you're at college to develop a career. You want to spend your time here to learn, to network, because the next 40 years you have to work and you know, engage in your career. That's what you're here for. That's what you should be doing. You don't want your name all over the newspaper and the internet. You don't.
Let's talk about the foundation that you started in Tim's name.
Yeah.
Tell me about it, and how can people get involved?
Yeah. So Tim had this interest in developing state-of-the-art prosthetics for children and soldiers for some reason. And somebody after Tim's passing came to me and said, we're going to start a foundation, we're going to have a golf outing. And I was like, well, now we can't do it. But anyway, so I agreed to it, we did it, and we've had it for I think 5 or 6 years now. We sell out every year. We have 280 golfers every year, 400 dinner guests. We raise a couple $100,000 a year. And the funds from the organization basically go to help children mostly that lost a limb for whatever reason, so that they can be kids. Tim loved children. He loved his Stan child, you know, that he was involved with. And he had a passion for it. So we figured that's where we're going to spend the money that we raise. So we've helped, I don't know, probably 75, 80 children already get either prosthetic hands or legs or feet, you know, so many different things. We also give some scholarships to people from his high school, but that's a small amount of what we do. It's really helping children, and we've developed a national network now of people that we know who call on us to help kids that can't otherwise afford prosthetics or can't afford the prosthetic that they want so that they can play soccer. We'll help them. We'll do that for them, and it's been rewarding. It's been a wonderful experience. I know Tim would love the fact that we're doing it. And anybody that wants to get involved, just go to www.liveliketim.com. I believe it's .com. And it could be .org. And you'll see, you'll see some of the kids that we helped, and you'll see ways that you can get involved. You can reach out to us through the website. And we're always looking for people to play in the golf outing, to help us raise money, to come up with auction item ideas for us. So there's so many ways to get involved, but it's really given back, and it's been wonderful.
It sounds very rewarding, and I'm really happy that something tragic you got something at least good out of it. Yeah. And this, helping kids is obviously an amazing thing. And while Tim's story is certainly a tragic one, you and your family, the center, the foundation, have made such a positive impact on society. Is that what your vision is for Tim's legacy? Like, how do you want people to remember Tim?
I want people to remember Tim as a big, fun-loving guy that had a huge heart, because that's what he was. He would protect his friends, but he was never one to instigate anything. He was always one to do goofy stuff, and his friends, still laugh about how goofy he would be. And unfortunately, I guess I want his picture to stand for you know, he looks like anybody else's kid. You know, could have happened to anybody. So when you look at him, just think, that could be me, that could be my brother, that could be my friend. Let's take care of each other. Let's just take care of each other. And that's what I hope his legacy will be.
Thank you so much, Mr. Piazza, for coming to talk to me today. My condolences go out to you and your family. Thank you for everything that you've been doing. You are truly making a huge difference with your work regarding anti-hazing. For more information on anti-hazing, check out the Piazza Center for Fraternity and Sorority Research. If you would like to support the foundation started in Tim's name, go to www.liveliketim.org.